The moment my mom told me my future had been sold to my brother, something inside me died. Not slowly. Not quietly. It shattered all at once, like a glass dropped on concrete. And the worst part, she didn't even look guilty. She said it like she was explaining the weather. Like it was obvious, like it had always been that way. My name is Maya Carter, and 3 weeks before I was supposed to leave for college, I discovered my parents had stolen $192,000 from me. Money my grandmother had saved every single month for 18 years. Money meant for my future. Money meant to get me out of the small Ohio town where dreams usually died before graduation. But instead, my parents used it to buy my older brother Ethan a house. And when I asked why, my mother looked me straight in the eye and said, "Because he's the one who actually needs it." That was the moment I realized something terrifying. In my family, I had never actually mattered. I grew up in Brookdale, Ohio, population barely 12,000, the kind of town where people wave from their front porches and everyone knows who got divorced before the paperwork is even filed. Our house sat on Maple Ridge Drive, a beige ranch-style place with a crooked basketball hoop Ethan stopped using years ago. From the outside, we looked like a normal American family. Mom, dad, older brother, younger sister. But inside, we weren't equals. We were a ranking system, and Ethan had always been at the top. Ethan Carter was the golden child. Tall, easy smile. Captain of the high school football team. The kind of guy who could walk into a bar and make instant friends with everyone inside. People loved him, and my mom loved him most of all. The problem was Ethan had absolutely zero follow-through. He dropped out of Ohio State halfway through sophomore year. My mom threw him a new beginnings dinner. He quit 3 different jobs in 2 years. My mom said his bosses didn't appreciate creative thinkers. When he moved back home at 26, Mom redecorated his room like he'd just returned from war. Meanwhile, I was the opposite. Straight A student, debate team captain, part-time job at Starbucks on Pine Street since I was 15. I bought my own clothes, paid for my own gas, even helped Dad with grocery money sometimes. But whenever I accomplished something, my mom barely looked up. "That's nice, Maya." That was it. That was always it. I remember one night during my junior year, I walked into the kitchen holding my report card. All A's, again. Mom was on the phone with Ethan, laughing about something. I stood there waiting. And waiting. Finally she waved at the counter without looking. "Just leave it there." I set the report card down. 3 days later, it was still unopened. My dad, he wasn't cruel. He was just quiet. He sat at the end of the dinner table most nights, eating slowly, staring at his plate like the mashed potatoes held the meaning of life. He never told me I didn't matter. But he never told me I did either. Silence can say a lot, sometimes more than words. The only person who ever made me feel seen was my grandmother, Evelyn Parker. Grandma lived across town in a tiny white house with blue shutters and a porch swing older than me. She used to hug me and say, "You're going to do something big with your life, kiddo." When I turned 10, she told me about the college fund. She said she'd been saving since the day I was born, $500 a month, sometimes more. Every birthday card she sent had a little note inside, "For your future." I believed her. I trusted that money was waiting for me. My ticket out. My chance. What I didn't know was that 8 months earlier, my parents had already started draining the account. The day everything collapsed was a Tuesday in July. 3 weeks before move-in day. I was sitting at the kitchen counter with my laptop open, finishing my enrollment checklist for Michigan State University. Housing deposit, paid. Meal plan, selected. All that was left was the tuition transfer from my college fund. Simple. Routine. I called the bank just to confirm the wire instructions. The woman on the phone asked for my social security number and birth date. Then there was a pause. Not a normal pause. The kind where someone is deciding how to say something bad. "Miss Carter." Her voice changed. "I'm showing a balance on this account of $216. I laughed. Actually laughed. "Sorry, that can't be right. The account should have around $190,000. More typing. More silence. Then she said it. "There have been multiple withdrawals over the past 8 months. Authorized by the custodian on the account." My stomach dropped. Who's the custodian? Daniel Carter. My father. The kitchen suddenly felt too quiet. Through the window, I could see Ethan's brand new Ford F-150 parked in the driveway. The one Mom said he bought from a friend. My hands went cold. How much was withdrawn? $191,784. The words felt unreal. Like someone describing a crime scene on TV. I hung up the phone, walked into the living room. Mom was on the couch watching HGTV, sipping iced tea like it was a normal afternoon. Mom, I said, where is my college fund? She muted the TV, turned slowly toward me. Completely calm. Oh, she said. We used that. My heart slammed against my ribs. For what? She shrugged. Your brother's house. The world didn't spin. The walls didn't collapse. Everything stayed perfectly normal, which somehow made it worse. That was my money, I said. Grandma saved that for me. Mom smiled the way adults smile at kids who don't understand how life works. Honey, your grandmother can save whatever she wants. But I'm your mother. She stood up and walked closer. That account was custodial. Legally, it's under our control. You're kidding. No. She leaned in slightly. You'll figure college out. You're smart. Then she said the sentence that would haunt me forever. Ethan needed stability. She waved her hand dismissively. You'll survive. And then, the final knife. He's the one who actually matters in this family. She unmuted the TV. Like the conversation was over. Like my future was just background noise. I walked to my bedroom in complete silence, closed the door, sat on the edge of my bed, and started doing the math. 5,000 tuition deposit due in 10 days. Miss it, and I lose my spot at Michigan State, lose my scholarships, lose everything I'd worked for. My checking account had $903. That was it. 18 years of work gone. Just like that. There were options. Student loans, emergency financial aid, begging my parents to give the money back. But deep down, I already knew the truth. They had taken it because they believed I'd handle it. They trusted my resilience enough to steal my future. I picked up my phone, scrolled through my contacts, and stopped on one name. Grandma Evelyn. Because once I made that call, everything would change. And the truth, part of me was terrified of what she would do next. The moment my mom said, "You're overreacting," something inside me finally snapped. Not cracked. Not bent. Snapped. I stood there in the kitchen of the house I grew up in. The same kitchen where Mom used to pack my lunches before elementary school, the same one where Dad taught me how to flip pancakes on Sunday mornings. Except now it felt like a stranger's house. Like I had walked into someone else's life. Overreacting, I repeated, my voice shaking. You gave away my entire college fund. Dad leaned back against the counter like this was some casual family discussion instead of a financial nuclear bomb. We didn't give it away, he said. We invested it in your brother's future. I actually laughed. Not a happy laugh, the kind that slips out when your brain can't process betrayal fast enough. Invested, I said. You mean the $187,000 Grandma saved for me? Mom sighed dramatically and crossed her arms. Emma, stop acting like a victim. That sentence. That stupid sentence. It hit harder than the missing money. I stared at her. You literally took my education fund, I said slowly. Without telling me. Dad rubbed his temples like I was exhausting. Your brother needed help, he said. Your brother, I repeated. And right on cue, like the universe loved cruel timing, the back door opened. Hey, Mom, where's the... My brother, Tyler, froze mid-sentence when he saw my face. Tyler was 20, a sophomore at some overpriced private business school in Arizona that he barely attended because he spent most weekends partying in Scottsdale. He looked between us. What's going on? I didn't answer. I just asked one question. Did you know? Tyler frowned. Know what? Did you know Mom and Dad drained my college fund to pay your tuition? Silence dropped into the room like a bowling ball. Tyler's eyes flicked to our parents. That was the moment I knew. Because guilt has a smell. And suddenly the entire kitchen reeked of it. Tyler, I said quietly, did you know? He shifted his weight. Well, I mean, my stomach dropped. You did? It's not like that, he said quickly. Oh, I snapped. then explain it. Mom stepped forward immediately. Emma, don't attack your brother. Attack him. I turned toward her. You're protecting him right now. Dad raised his voice. Nuff. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I looked straight at Tyler. How long? He hesitated. Since last year. Last year. I felt like the floor tilted. Last year? I whispered. Yeah, but. That means when I was filling out scholarship applications. My voice cracked. When I was working 2 jobs at the diner and Starbucks because I thought we couldn't afford college. Tyler looked uncomfortable. Mom jumped in. You needed to learn independence. My head whipped toward her. Independence. You're strong, Emma, she said. You'll figure things out. I stared at her like I'd never seen her before. But Tyler needed help, she added. Tyler rubbed the back of his neck. I didn't ask them to take your fund, he muttered. I laughed again. Really? He avoided my eyes. Well, they offered. Of course they did. Dad sighed. You're making this bigger than it is. I turned toward him slowly. Bigger than it is. He nodded. You're still young. Community college is an option, then transfer somewhere later. Community college. After getting accepted to UCLA, after busting my ass for years, after Grandma spent over a decade building that fund for me. Grandma said that money was for my education? I said. Mom's expression hardened. Well, Grandma isn't part of this decision. Oh wow. That sentence would come back to haunt them. But they didn't know that yet. I grabbed my backpack off the chair. Where are you going? Mom asked. Out. Emma? I turned around at the doorway. You know what the worst part is? No one answered. You didn't even tell me. The room stayed quiet. So yeah, I said softly. I'm done talking. I walked out the back door before they could respond. The summer air outside felt thick and suffocating. I made it halfway down the driveway before my phone buzzed. Maya, my best friend. I answered immediately. Hey, you alive? She asked. I let out a shaky breath. Define alive. Oh, she said. What happened? I sat on the curb, and for the first time since the kitchen confrontation, I broke. Like full ugly crying. Maya didn't interrupt. She just waited. After a minute she asked quietly, Emma, what did they do? I wiped my face. They stole my college fund. What? All 187 Zalu, silence. Then. Eryau you Surus. Dead serious. How? I stared at the house. Through the window I could see Tyler grabbing a soda from the fridge like nothing happened, like my life hadn't just exploded. They gave it to Tyler. Another pause. Then Maya said something that changed everything. Does your grandma know? I froze. Nope. Emma, Maya said slowly, who'sn't that her money? Technically yes. Grandma had started the fund when I was 6. Every birthday, every Christmas, every graduation. She'd always say the same thing. Education is freedom, sweetheart. Mom always handled the account. Which meant Grandma probably assumed it was still there. My stomach twisted. Emma, Maya said. You need to tell her. I looked back at the house again. Through the kitchen window, my parents were talking like everything was normal. Like they hadn't just betrayed their daughter. My voice came out quieter than I expected. I don't think they expect me to. Maya's tone sharpened, which means you absolutely should. I hesitated. Grandma lived 3 towns over in Riverside. And if there was one thing everyone in our family knew about her, it was this: do not mess with Eleanor Brooks. She was the kind of woman who ran neighborhood charity boards, organized town fundraisers, and once got an HOA president fired for embezzling landscaping money. Basically, if Grandma found out what happened to my college fund, hell would follow. And suddenly, for the first time all day, I felt something besides heartbreak. I felt possibility. I stood up from the curb. Maya immediately asked, "What are you doing?" I took a deep breath. I'm going to see my grandma. Right now. Yeah. I looked at the house one last time. They think this conversation is over. My voice turned cold. But it's actually just starting. And they had no idea how big this was about to get. They did what with the money? My grandma didn't raise her voice often. But when she did, people listened. I was sitting at the small round kitchen table in her house in Riverside, California. Twisting a paper napkin into little shreds, while she stood across from me, perfectly still. The house smelled like fresh coffee and lemon cleaner, Grandma's two favorite scents. Usually that smell meant safety, tonight it just made my stomach twist. Emma, she said slowly, start from the beginning. Her voice was calm. Too calm, and somehow that made this harder. I swallowed. I found out this morning. Grandma pulled out a chair and sat down across from me, folding her hands like a judge about to hear testimony. What exactly did you find out? That the college fund you made for me. My voice cracked. Is gone. She blinked once. Gone. They used it? For what? I hesitated, even saying it felt unreal. For Tyler's college? Silence. Not awkward silence. The kind that fills the whole room and presses against your ears. Grandma stared at me like she was trying to process a foreign language. Your brother's college? She repeated. I nodded slowly. All of it. Her lips pressed into a thin line. How much money was in that account the last time you checked? About $187,000. Grandma leaned back in her chair. Her eyes drifted toward the window above the sink like she was replaying years of memories. Birthday cards. Holiday envelopes. Little deposits every month. She'd been building that fund for 12 years. Then she asked something that made my chest tighten. Did your parents tell you before they did this? No. They asked your permission? No. They informed me. I shook my head. No. The silence came back again. Except this time, it felt different, colder. Grandma slowly stood up and walked to the coffee machine. She poured herself a cup, but she didn't drink it. She just stood there holding the mug like she needed something warm to keep from exploding. Finally she turned around. How did you discover it? Dad accidentally mentioned it this morning. Her eyebrow lifted. Accidentally. Yeah, they thought I already knew. Grandma let out a quiet breath through her nose. That was her version of anger, and trust me, it was scarier than yelling. So your parents, she said carefully, took money I saved for my granddaughter's education, without telling either of us, and gave it to your brother. I nodded. Yeah. Another long pause. Then she asked the question that made my stomach twist again. Does Tyler know? I hesitated. Yes. Her eyes narrowed slightly. He knew the money was yours. Apparently. Grandma set the coffee mug down. Very gently. But I could still feel the tension in the room like static electricity. Well, she said. One word. Just one. But it sounded like the opening note of a thunderstorm. Well. I shifted nervously. Grandma, are you mad? She turned and looked at me like I'd asked if the sun existed. Emma, she said softly, I am furious. Yeah, I believed her. She walked back to the table and sat down again. Then she asked something that surprised me. Do you still want to go to UCLA? My head snapped up. Of course I do. Good? She nodded like that answered something important. Because that's where you're going. I blinked. Grandma, the money is not the point. Her voice cut through the air like a blade. The point, she said, is that your parents stole from you. The word stole hung in the room. No sugarcoating, no soft family phrasing. Just the truth. They didn't think of it that way, I said weakly. Grandma scoffed. Of course they didn't. She leaned forward. Thieves rarely do. My brain struggled to keep up. What are you going to do? She didn't answer immediately. Instead she reached into the drawer beside the table and pulled out a small leather address book. Yes. An actual paper address book. Grandma was old school like that. She flipped through the pages slowly. My heart started beating faster. Grandma? She looked up at me. You know something about small towns, Emma? What? Secrets don't stay secret. My stomach dropped. Wait, what are you planning? She smiled. Not a warm grandma smile. The kind of smile a chess player makes 3 moves before checkmate. Your parents forgot something important. What? This family doesn't operate in a vacuum. I frowned. I don't understand. Grandma tapped the address book. You see this? Yes. These are the people who have known your parents since before they were married. She flipped another page. Church friends. Flip. Neighborhood board members. Flip. Your father's golf buddies. Flip. Your mother's charity committee. A slow realization crawled up my spine. Grandma. She met my eyes. They made a decision without considering the consequences. Consequences like. She closed the book. Public accountability. Oh no. Grandma. I said carefully. You're not going to start drama, right? She looked genuinely confused. Drama. Yes. She leaned back and folded her arms. Emma. Her tone turned serious. When someone wrongs you this deeply, you don't whisper about it. My pulse sped up. What do you do? Her answer came instantly. You shine a spotlight on it. My eyes widened. You're not actually going to tell everyone? Oh, she said calmly. I absolutely am. My stomach flipped. Grandma. What? That's extreme. She raised one eyebrow. Is it?
Well, yeah.
She tilted her head. Your parents stole nearly $200,000 from their daughter. Pause. And you think telling the truth is extreme? When she said it like that, it sounded very different. I rubbed my temples. This is going to blow up the whole family. Grandma nodded. Yes. You're okay with that? She leaned forward slightly. Emma. Her voice softened. You deserve justice. My throat tightened. Even if it embarrasses them. Especially if it embarrasses them. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt vindicated. Another part felt terrified. Because I knew my grandma. And when she decided something, it happened. Suddenly her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at the screen, then smiled slowly. What? I asked nervously. That, she said, was perfect timing. What was? She turned the phone toward me. A message from Linda Harris, Mom's best friend. It read, Don't forget the neighborhood BBQ tomorrow at the park. Everyone will be there. Grandma looked at me. Then back at the phone, then back at me, and her smile grew. Oh, she said softly. This is going to be good. My stomach dropped. Grandma, what are you thinking? She picked up the phone. What any reasonable woman would do. Which is? She started typing a reply. My pulse started racing. Grandma. She hit send. Then looked up at me with a sparkle in her eyes I hadn't seen since she beat Uncle Rick in family poker night. I'll see your parents tomorrow. My heart thudded. At the BBQ, she nodded. And Emma? Yeah. Her voice dropped just slightly. They won't be expecting what happens next. The moment my mom saw my grandma walking into the park, her smile disappeared. Not slowly. Not subtly. It vanished like someone flipped a switch. And honestly, that's when I knew this was about to get ugly. The Riverside Community Park was packed that Saturday afternoon. The annual neighborhood BBQ was kind of a big deal. Kids running around with water balloons, dads arguing about football near the grills, moms gathered around folding tables stacked with potato salad and Costco desserts. Basically the most normal, suburban American scene you could imagine, except my stomach felt like I was walking into a courtroom. Relax, Grandma whispered as we stepped onto the grass. Relax. Sure. Easy word to say, when you weren't about to publicly expose your own family. I scanned the crowd and spotted them immediately. Mom was standing near the drink table with her usual group of friends, laughing like nothing in the world was wrong. Dad was at the grill talking to Mr. Carter about the upcoming high school football season. And Tyler. Of course he was leaning against a picnic table with his friends, holding a beer and acting like the king of the universe. For a second, I almost turned around. This was insane. Families weren't supposed to explode in front of neighbors like this. But Grandma kept walking. Calm. Confident, like a general marching onto a battlefield she already knew she'd win. Eleanor. Someone called. Mrs. Patterson from across the street waved at us. Oh good. You made it. Grandma smiled politely. Wouldn't miss it. More people started noticing her arrival. And that wasn't unusual. Grandma was basically a local celebrity in Riverside. She'd helped organize half the charity events in town, and had been on the community board for years. People respected her, trusted her. Which meant when she spoke, they listened. Mom noticed us next. Her face lit up automatically. Mom! She called out, walking toward us. I didn't know you were coming. Then she saw me standing next to Grandma. And that smile flickered. Just slightly. But I saw it. Oh, she said. Emma, you're here too. Grandma's voice stayed perfectly pleasant. Of course she is. Mom glanced between us, her expression tightening. Well, great, she said awkwardly. Do you want a drink? Lemonade. I made fresh. Actually, Grandma interrupted gently, I was hoping we could talk. Mom's shoulders stiffened. Talk? Yes. Dad had noticed us now too. He walked over, spatula still in hand. Hey, Eleanor, he said carefully. Didn't know you were coming today. Grandma looked at him calmly. Neither did you when you took my granddaughter's college fund. The words dropped into the air like a bomb. Dad froze. Mom's face went pale, and suddenly the conversation around us started to quiet down. Because people had heard that. Oh my God! Mom hissed under her breath, not here. Grandma tilted her head slightly. Why not here? Because this is a neighborhood event. Exactly. A couple standing nearby pretended to focus very hard on their paper plates while clearly listening to every word. Dad lowered his voice. Eleanor, we can discuss this privately. Grandma didn't budge. Why privately? Mom stepped closer, panic creeping into her voice. Because this isn't anyone else's business. Grandma looked around slowly. At the neighbors. At the families. At the people who had known my parents for 20 years. Then she said something that made my heart pound. Oh, I think it is. Now people were definitely staring. Dad forced a laugh. Okay, let's not make a scene. A scene. Grandma repeated. Yes. Her expression hardened slightly. You mean like secretly taking $187,000 that was meant for Emma's education? Gasps. Actual gasps. Mom grabbed Grandma's arm. Stop. Grandma gently removed her hand. No. Dad's face turned red. You're blowing this out of proportion. Am I? Yes. He gestured around. You're embarrassing us. Grandma didn't blink. Good. Mom looked like she might faint. This is unbelievable, she whispered. By now, a small crowd had formed nearby, including Mom's best friend Linda, who looked deeply confused. Wait, Linda said slowly. What money? Grandma turned toward her. The college fund I've been building for Emma since she was 6. Linda nodded. Yes, you've talked about that for years. Indeed. Grandma's voice remained calm. Apparently my daughter and son-in-law decided to give it to Tyler instead. A ripple of shocked murmurs moved through the crowd. Linda's mouth dropped open. They did what? Mom's face flushed bright red. Linda, please. You told everyone Emma had a full college fund. Linda interrupted. I know. Then why would you? Because Tyler needed it? Mom snapped suddenly. The park went silent. Dad shot her a warning look. Too late. The words were out. Grandma raised an eyebrow. Mom realized what she'd just done. Her voice dropped. I didn't mean. But you did. Grandma said quietly. She turned toward the growing crowd. My granddaughter worked her entire life to get into UCLA. People nodded. Everyone knew that. Emma the overachiever. Emma the straightest student. Emma the girl who practically lived at the library. And while she was applying for scholarships, Grandma continued, her parents were quietly emptying her education account. The murmuring grew louder. Dad stepped forward. That's not how it happened. Then explain it, Grandma said calmly. He opened his mouth, closed it. Mom tried instead. We were going to tell her eventually. When? Grandma asked. After Tyler graduated. Another wave of shocked whispers spread through the crowd. Grandma nodded slowly. So the plan was to let Emma struggle through college while her brother used her money. Mom looked desperate now. It wasn't like that. Oh. Dad stepped in. Tyler's degree has more earning potential. I felt like someone punched me in the chest. More earning potential. Grandma turned slowly toward him. Are you suggesting Emma's education is less valuable? Dad hesitated. Well, wrong answer, very wrong answer. Grandma straightened. Well then, she said clearly. If Tyler's education is so valuable. She gestured toward the picnic tables. Perhaps he'd like to come explain it himself. Every head in the park turned toward Tyler, who was now standing frozen beside his friends, beer in hand, eyes wide, and suddenly, The entire town was waiting to hear what he had to say. Tyler tried to walk away. The second my grandma called him out, he turned like he hadn't heard his name and started heading toward the parking lot. Smooth. Real subtle. Except about 30 people were now watching him. Tyler, Grandma called again. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. The entire park felt frozen. Kids stopped running. Someone dropped a plastic fork. Even the guy flipping burgers paused mid-flip. Tyler stopped walking, slowly. Then he turned around with the fakest smile I'd ever seen. Hey, Grandma. He walked back over like someone heading toward a dentist appointment. Every step looked reluctant. His friends stayed behind at the table, whispering like they were watching a live reality show. And honestly, that's exactly what it felt like. Tyler reached us and shoved his hands into his pockets. What's going on? He asked, trying to sound casual. Grandma studied him carefully. You tell me. He glanced at Mom and Dad. Mom looked like she might throw up. Dad looked furious. Tyler cleared his throat. I just got here. Grandma didn't smile. That's interesting, she said calmly. Why? Because we're discussing the college fund your parents gave you. The color drained from his face. Oh, yeah. Oh, the crowd shifted closer. Nobody was pretending not to listen anymore. Linda crossed her arms. So you knew about it? Tyler looked at Mom again. Mom looked like she wanted to disappear into the grass. He started. His voice trailed off. Grandma finished the sentence for him. You knew the money belonged to Emma. Tyler exhaled slowly. Technically it belonged to Mom and Dad. That sentence hit me like a slap. Grandma's eyebrow lifted. Technically. They controlled the account. He said quickly. So yeah, it was their decision. I felt heat rush up my neck. That money was meant for me, I said. Tyler shrugged. You weren't using it yet. I stared at him. You're joking. No, he said, suddenly defensive. Look, I needed tuition. And I don't. You could have gone somewhere cheaper. A few people gasped. Even Dad winced slightly. But Tyler kept going. You're the smart one, Emma, he said. You would have figured it out. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're saying I should just struggle because you didn't plan your finances. I didn't say struggle. You literally took 187's alert. Mom and Dad gave it to me. Grandma leaned forward slightly. Did it occur to you to refuse it? Tyler hesitated. Well, that's a no. He rubbed his face. Look, it's not like I blew it on cars or something. A guy near the grill muttered. Didn't he buy that new Mustang last year? Tyler shot him a glare. That's different. Grandma tilted her head. How? My degree matters. There it was again. That same sentence Dad used earlier. My degree matters. I felt something inside my chest snap. So mine doesn't? I asked quietly. Tyler sighed like I was exhausting. You want to be a writer, Emma. The way he said it, like it was some childish hobby. Yeah, I said. And that's not exactly a high-paying career. A ripple of uncomfortable murmurs spread through the crowd. Grandma's eyes narrowed. So you decided her dreams were less important than yours. I didn't decide anything. You accepted the money. He threw his hands up. What was I supposed to do? Say no, yes, Grandma said simply. He scoffed. Easy for you to say. Grandma's voice stayed steady. I spent 12 years saving that money. Tyler's expression shifted slightly, just a flicker. Maybe guilt, maybe not. Mom finally jumped in. Okay, this has gone far enough. Her voice shook. We're leaving. Dad nodded quickly. Yeah, this conversation is over. Grandma stood up straight. No, she said calmly. It isn't. Mom looked desperate now. Mom, please. Grandma turned toward her slowly. You took money that did not belong to you. It did belong to us. No. Grandma said firmly. It belonged to Emma. Dad stepped forward. You can't prove that. The words hung in the air. Even Tyler looked surprised he'd said that. Grandma's expression didn't change, but something cold flashed behind her eyes. Can't I? Dad crossed his arms. It was in our account. That's true. And we're her parents. Yes. So legally. Grandma interrupted. The account is a custodial education fund. Dad's face tightened. And that means the money was designated for one specific beneficiary. She looked straight at him. Emma. The crowd murmured again. Dad shifted his weight. That's not how we understood it. Grandma reached into her purse. Good thing I brought documentation. Mom's jaw dropped. You didn't. Oh, I did. She pulled out a thin folder. Inside were neatly organized papers. Of course there were. Grandma had always been terrifyingly prepared. She handed one page to Linda. Would you mind reading that section aloud? Linda adjusted her glasses nervously. Okay. She scanned the document. Then read. Funds deposited into this account are intended solely for the educational expenses of beneficiary, Emma Brooks. The crowd erupted into whispers. Dad's face went pale. Mom covered her mouth. Tyler looked like someone had just punched him in the gut. Grandma calmly took the paper back. Thank you, Linda. Then she turned back to my parents. So, she said quietly, would either of you like to explain why you emptied that account? Mom's eyes filled with tears. Dad's jaw clenched. But neither of them spoke. The silence stretched across the park. Finally, Grandma said something that made my pulse spike. Well then. She closed the folder. I suppose we'll let a lawyer sort it out. Mom's head snapped up. A lawyer. Yes. You're suing us? Grandma's voice stayed calm. No. She glanced at me. Emma will be. The entire park exploded with shocked voices. And suddenly, for the first time since this nightmare started, my parents realized something. This wasn't just family drama anymore. It was war. You're suing your own parents. My mom's voice cracked so loudly that people standing 20 feet away turned around. It was the kind of sentence that made an entire crowd hold its breath. And honestly, until that exact moment, I hadn't realized how real this had just become. Because suing your parents wasn't just family drama. It was nuclear. I looked at my grandma. She stood beside me, calm as ever, like she'd already played this scenario out 100 times in her head. Mom's eyes filled with tears. You can't be serious, she whispered. Grandma tilted her head slightly. Oh, I'm very serious. Dad stepped forward, anger radiating off him. This is ridiculous. Is it? Grandma asked calmly. Yes, he snapped. You're threatening legal action over a family decision. Family decision? Grandma repeated. Yes, her voice hardened. A family decision would involve the whole family. The crowd murmured in agreement. Dad's jaw tightened. You're making us look like criminals. Grandma didn't blink. If the shoe fits. Mom shook her head frantically. Emma, sweetheart, she said, turning toward me. You're not actually going to do this. Her tone had suddenly changed. Soft. Almost pleading. The same voice she used when I was a kid and she wanted me to forgive something. But it didn't work the same way anymore. I took a breath. I didn't take the money. I said quietly. You know what I mean. No. I said. Actually, I don't. Her face crumpled slightly. Families make sacrifices for each other. I stared at her. So why was I the only one sacrificing? She didn't answer. Tyler suddenly stepped forward again. This is insane, he said. You're really going to destroy the family over money? That sentence flipped something inside me. Over money? I repeated. Yeah. You mean the $187,000 that was supposed to pay for my education? He rolled his eyes. God, Emma, it's not like your life is ruined. The words hit harder than anything he'd said so far. Not ruined? I said quietly. You'll still go to college. How? You'll figure it out. I laughed bitterly. That's exactly what Mom said. Tyler threw his hands up. Because it's true. You're the smart one. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Someone whispered, wow. I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I forced them back. Do you know what I did last year? I asked him. He shrugged. No. I worked 2 jobs. So I could afford application fees and textbooks. He looked confused. Why didn't you just use the college fund? I stared at him. Because I didn't know it was gone. The realization slowly crept across his face. Oh. Yeah. Oh, Grandma spoke again. Emma believed the money was still there. Dad rubbed his temples. We were going to fix it? How? Grandma asked. We would have paid her back. With what? She asked calmly. Dad hesitated. That's not the point. No, Grandma said. That's exactly the point. Mom stepped forward again. Emma, please, she whispered. I felt my chest tightening. Part of me wanted to give in. Because these were still my parents. But then I remembered standing in the kitchen yesterday. The way they'd looked at me like I was the unreasonable one, like my future didn't matter. And suddenly, I felt something shift inside me. I didn't start this, I said quietly. Mom shook her head. But you can end it. Dad jumped in quickly. Look, we'll work something out. Grandma folded her arms. Like what? Well, pay her back eventually. How long? He hesitated. A few years. Grandma looked at me. Emma's college starts in 4 months. The crowd murmured again. Dad looked trapped. Tyler suddenly muttered, I can help. Everyone turned toward him. You can? Grandma asked. He shifted awkwardly. I mean, some of the money is already spent. How much? She asked. He hesitated again. Then said quietly, most of it. My stomach dropped. Grandma's eyes narrowed. Define most. Tyler swallowed. About 140,000, gasps echoed around us. Mom looked horrified. Tyler? What? He snapped. You said honesty. Grandma's voice stayed steady. So there's 47,000 left. Tyler rubbed the back of his neck. Well. The silence stretched. My heart started pounding. Well, what? I asked. He avoided my eyes. I used some of it for other stuff. What stuff? Just things. Grandma's voice sharpened. What things? He muttered something under his breath. I didn't hear you, she said. He sighed. The Mustang. The crowd erupted. Oh my God! Are you serious? That car was like 60 grand. Tyler looked defensive again. I needed transportation. For frat parties? Someone muttered. Dad looked like he might explode. You bought a car with that money. Tyler pointed at him. You said I deserved it. Dad froze. Yeah, that didn't sound great in front of 30 neighbors. Grandma slowly exhaled. Then she said something that changed the entire energy of the park. Well, she said. This just became much simpler. Dad frowned. What do you mean? Grandma looked directly at Tyler. You can sell the car. Tyler's eyes widened. What? The Mustang. No way. Why not? Because it's mine. Grandma raised an eyebrow. Is it? He crossed his arms. Yes. With whose money? Silence. Thick, uncomfortable silence. Grandma's voice dropped slightly. That car, she said calmly, was purchased with funds stolen from my granddaughter. Tyler looked at Dad desperately. Dad didn't say anything. Mom looked like she might faint. And suddenly, everyone in the park understood something. The Mustang parked at the edge of the lot wasn't really Tyler's car. It was mine. You're not touching my car. Tyler said it so fast it almost sounded like a reflex. Like a kid yelling, mine, on the playground. Except this wasn't a playground. This was the middle of Riverside Community Park. And half the neighborhood was watching him defend a 60,000 Mustang bought with stolen money. Grandma didn't even blink. Oh, I won't be touching it, she said calmly. Tyler crossed his arms. Good, but a court might. The crowd reacted instantly. A wave of murmurs rolled through the park. Tyler's confidence flickered. What court? The one Emma's lawyer files in. Dad finally exploded. Oh, for God's sake! Every head turned. You're seriously escalating this into a lawsuit over a car, he shouted. Grandma looked at him like he'd missed the entire point. This isn't about a car. Then what is it about? Her voice turned cold. It's about accountability. Mom looked desperate now. Mom, please, she begged. You're tearing the family apart. Grandma's eyes softened for a brief moment. Then hardened again. No, she said quietly. You did that when you took Emma's future. That sentence hit harder than anything else so far. Mom physically staggered backward. Linda grabbed her arm. Oh my God, Linda whispered. Dad rubbed his face like he was trying to wake up from a nightmare. Okay, he said finally. Let's just calm down. No, Grandma replied. Let's resolve this. Tyler scoffed. There's nothing to resolve. Grandma turned slowly toward him. Your sister's college fund disappeared. That wasn't my fault. You accepted the money. I didn't steal it. But you benefited from it. He rolled his eyes. This is ridiculous. I felt my pulse rising again. You bought a Mustang with my tuition, I said quietly. He shrugged. You weren't using it. That was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped completely. No, I said. My voice came out stronger than I expected. I was planning my entire life around it. The crowd went silent again. You know what I was doing last fall? I continued. Tyler looked annoyed. Nope. I was studying until 2 in the morning every night so I could get into UCLA. People nodded. They all knew how hard I'd worked. I skipped parties. I skipped road trips. I skipped literally everything normal teenagers do. My throat tightened, because I believed my future mattered. Tyler looked uncomfortable now. But apparently, I said, glancing at my parents, it only mattered if I was a son. Mom's face crumpled. That's not fair. Isn't it? Dad stepped forward quickly. We never said that. You didn't have to. The silence that followed felt heavy. Grandma finally spoke again. Let's simplify this, she said. Everyone turned toward her. There are 3 possible outcomes here. Dad sighed. Oh great. Grandma held up one finger. Option 1, Emma takes legal action. Tyler scoffed again. Good luck with that. Grandma ignored him. Option 2, you repay every dollar you took. Dad looked stunned. Every dollar? Yes. That's impossible? Then there's option 3. Mom looked terrified to ask. What's option 3? Grandma gestured toward the parking lot. Liquidate the assets purchased with Emma's money. Everyone followed her gaze, straight to the black Mustang shining in the sun. Tyler shook his head immediately. No. Grandma didn't move. The car is worth approximately $58,000 used. Still no. That's nearly 1/3 of the missing funds. Tyler laughed nervously. You're dreaming. Then something unexpected happened. Mr. Carter, the same guy Dad had been talking football with earlier, cleared his throat. Well, he said slowly. Everyone looked at him. My nephew runs a dealership. Tyler's head snapped toward him. So? Mr. Carter shrugged. Late model Mustangs sell pretty quick. Tyler looked panicked now. You guys are acting like this is already decided. Linda spoke up next. Honestly, Tyler, it sounds fair. Mom whipped around. Linda, what? Linda said defensively. Emma got robbed. More neighbors nodded. Tyler looked around the circle of faces, and for the first time all day, he realized the crowd wasn't on his side. Seriously, he said. All of you. A woman near the picnic table said quietly. You bought a sports car with your sister's college fund. Another neighbor added, that's a tough look, kid. Tyler turned to Dad desperately. Say something? Dad looked exhausted. Tyler. No. You promised that car was mine. Dad rubbed his face again. Things have changed. Tyler stared at him. You're kidding me. Grandma stepped forward slightly. No one is forcing you to decide right now. Tyler pointed at the Mustang. But you want that. I want justice for Emma. I felt every eye in the park turn toward me. Suddenly this wasn't just about my parents anymore. Or Tyler. This decision was mine. Grandma looked at me gently. Emma? She said. Yes, this is your future. My heart pounded in my chest. Dad looked at me. Mom looked at me. Tyler looked terrified. The neighbors waited silently. Grandma asked softly. What do you want to do? I want my future back. The words left my mouth before I could second guess them, and once they were out there was no taking them back. The entire park went silent, like the world had hit pause. My dad stared at me like he didn't recognize his own daughter. My mom's mascara had started running down her cheeks. And Tyler looked like someone had just told him gravity stopped working. What does that even mean? He asked. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't scream. I just said it plainly. It means the money that was meant for my education needs to come back. Tyler shook his head immediately. That's not possible. Grandma spoke calmly beside me. It's very possible. Dad sighed heavily. Emma, you know we don't have that kind of cash sitting around. I know. Mom stepped closer, her voice shaky. Sweetheart, we can figure something out. I tilted my head. That's what you said yesterday. She didn't answer. I looked around the park. At the neighbors, at the people who had watched me grow up. People who saw me babysit their kids, mow lawns, sell cookies during school fundraisers. People who knew exactly how hard I'd worked to get into UCLA. Then I turned back to my family. Here's the thing, I said quietly. I didn't start this fight? Dad rubbed his forehead. We know. But I'm not going to lose my future because you made a decision behind my back. Mom's voice cracked. We didn't think it would hurt you this much. That sentence hung in the air like smoke. Grandma exhaled slowly beside me. Tyler looked stunned. You didn't think it would hurt her, he repeated. Mom realized too late how that sounded. That's not what I meant. But it kind of was. I took a breath. I'm not asking for revenge. Tyler scoffed. Sure sounds like it. I shook my head. No. I pointed toward the parking lot. Sell the Mustang. His face turned bright red. No. Why not? Because it's mine. Grandma raised an eyebrow. With whose money? Tyler clenched his jaw. Dad spoke quietly. Tyler, maybe we should consider it. Tyler stared at him like he'd been betrayed. Are you serious? Dad looked older than he had that morning. Your sister deserves that money. Tyler laughed bitterly. Wow. Mom grabbed Tyler's arm. Honey? No, he snapped. Why is everyone acting like I'm the villain? Linda spoke softly from the crowd. You're not the villain. Tyler looked relieved for half a second. Your parents are, she added. The crowd murmured again. Tyler blinked. Oh. Grandma nodded. That's correct. Dad let out a long breath. Okay. Everyone turned to him. Okay, what? Mom asked. He looked at me. We'll sell the car. Tyler's head whipped around. Hey, shh. Dad didn't look at him. We'll sell it, and every dollar goes back into Emma's education account. Tyler looked like he might explode. You can't do that. Dad finally turned toward him. You never should have bought it. Tyler stared at him in disbelief. You said I deserved it. Dad's voice dropped. I was wrong. That sentence shocked everyone, because my dad wasn't the kind of man who admitted he was wrong. Like ever. Mom wiped her eyes. Selling the car won't cover everything. Grandma nodded. I know? Dad looked at her. We'll take a loan for the rest. Mom turned toward him in shock. A loan? Yes. But that will take years to pay back. Dad glanced at me. It should? Silence spread across the park again. Tyler ran his hands through his hair. This is insane. Then he looked at me. You're really okay with ruining my life over this? I held his gaze. I didn't ruin your life. I gestured toward the Mustang. You just have to drive something cheaper. The crowd chuckled quietly. Tyler looked furious, but he didn't argue again, because deep down he knew. Grandma finally spoke again. Well, she said calmly, that sounds like a reasonable start. Dad nodded slowly. I'll call a dealership Monday. Mr. Carter raised a hand. My nephew can handle it. Dad gave a tired half smile. Appreciate it. Mom stepped toward me carefully. Emma. I stiffened slightly. She looked like she wanted to hug me. But she didn't. Instead she just said quietly, I'm sorry. I studied her face, and for the first time since this whole nightmare started, she actually looked like she meant it. But apologies didn't erase choices. Thank you, I said. Dad cleared his throat. We'll make this right. Grandma squeezed my hand. You already started. The crowd slowly began to break apart. People returned to their burgers and lemonade. Kids started running around again. The world restarted. But everything felt different. Tyler walked past me toward the parking lot. He stopped beside the Mustang. Ran his hand across the hood. Then muttered under his breath, Wes, it was never really mine. Grandma chuckled softly. Nope. I watched him stand there for a moment longer before walking away. Then I looked at my grandma. You really planned all this, didn't you? She smiled. Oh, sweetheart. She leaned closer and whispered. I only planned the truth. I laughed for the first time in 2 days. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, we walked back toward her car. My phone buzzed. A message from UCLA admissions reminding me about orientation registration. I stared at the screen, then smiled. Because for the first time since yesterday morning, my future didn't feel stolen anymore. Grandma opened the passenger door for me. You ready for college, Emma? I slid into the seat. More than ever. She started the engine. And as we pulled out of the park, I looked back one last time at the neighborhood where everything had exploded. Sometimes the truth destroys things, but sometimes it builds your life back stronger. And this time, the future was finally mine.